Hello everybody. In this video I will talk about quartz crystals and magnets and special properties of quartz crystals, like this quartz crystal tip that I have here, for example. And first off, an interesting fact that some of you may already know is the magnetic permeability of quartz crystals, and which means that if you have a stack of magnets like this or any other magnet, preferably a strong neodymium magnet, because then the effect is the strongest, and you just take any quartz crystal and do this, meaning you come closer to it, you will feel a slight repulsion. It is really not that strong, not comparable to like when you do this with another magnet, but it is definitely feelable. And you don't actually need a quartz crystal tip like this. It can be just a piece of quartz, or doesn't need to be clear quartz. Amethyst or rose quartz or any other quartz crystal will have the same effect, because they're basically all quartz crystals. And this is just one interesting effect that was already shown by Ken Wheeler, but maybe not all of you have seen that video, so I wanted to show this again. And this got me started into using neodymium magnets in my Orgonite builds. So if you don't know what Orgonite is, this is basically a mix of crystals, metals and resin. And I also add magnets, or with the bigger ones, magnet arrays into these Orgonite builds. And if you add magnets to them, I found out they become much more powerful. It's like adding a battery to it, crudely spoken. So to explain you this a bit further, I have to take a kind of esoteric approach, or at least it may sound a bit esoteric to most people, but I will explain this as rational as possible so that you can get an idea of what I mean. Basically, if you take a quartz crystal, you can, if you are trained to do that, or you find out how to do this, you can basically, if you hold them just like this, or like this, or just hold them, you can send, I would describe it as an electric signal to the crystal itself. It is, our body itself is electric, meaning if you move your muscles, you send an electric signal, mostly unconscious, but anyway you can control it, and therefore your muscles move. But you don't need to move any muscles and still can consciously send an electric signal. Or you could also say you can manipulate the electric field of your body consciously. And this is something you can learn to do. It's not very difficult. For some people it might be easier as for others, but nonetheless I will still explain to you how it feels or what it does to me. And basically if I do that, I can feel a certain kind of pulsing in my body when I do this. And of course I thought about why this is happening, and especially with quartz crystals. And my explanation would be, if you take a look at our electronic devices, basically all of them have quartz oscillators in them. If you don't know what a quartz oscillator is, just Google it. It is basically a small slice of a quartz crystal where there is attached 2 electrodes, and if you apply a voltage on them, the quartz crystal itself will start to vibrate or oscillate. And this is mostly used in all kinds of watches or clocks. So if you slice them to a certain size and apply a certain voltage, they will also always resonate at the exact same frequency. And this is what basically gives the clock to our electronic devices, and therefore they are mostly used in all electronic devices. And I think the same can be applied if our body works electric and I do this. It's basically like attaching 2 electrodes to it, and you can also apply a certain voltage to it, and it also starts to oscillate or vibrate. That is just what I think happens here. And you can feel that vibration or oscillation. It doesn't feel a physical vibration, doesn't start to vibrate or something like that, but I would describe it as an inner pulse that you feel in your body. And what I found out is when I do this, it feels like I have to add energy to it to make this work. But when you bring a quartz crystal close to a strong magnet and do the same, you don't have to really add energy or electricity to it. It is like it becomes vibrating itself, and you can take off energy from it, or it becomes very energetic by itself. And I've also tried with this circular magnet array. I've put an amethyst quartz crystal tip in the center. Hope you can see this. And I've tried with this crystal tip before, just doing that and taking it, and it felt like any other quartz crystal tip. But when it's inside this strong magnetic field of this spherical array, and I just do this, it is insanely powerful. Meaning when I just touch both ends of the tip, the pulse that you get from it is much, much, much stronger. And this confirms to me that basically a magnet or a strong magnetic field amplifies or does something to the crystal. I can't describe to you what exactly it does, but it makes it extremely more powerful. And this is the reason why in my Orgonite builds I always use magnet, or for the bigger one, magnet arrays. Because I'm convinced that this is what makes them really powerful. I've also built Orgonite before without magnets. They also work. It's no problem if you don't use magnets. But for all the Orgonite builders out there, just try it and use magnets in your builds. And for example, for these builds in this size, I just use one of these magnets. These are neodymium disc magnets, 10 mm in diameter and 3 mm high, and you just have to use one of them. Don't overdo it, don't add too much magnets to them, and add them in the layer where you use iron. That is what I consider important. Like for example, in this one I have 3 main layers of iron, the top one, the middle one and the bottom one. And in the middle one I added the magnet. and I can tell you the difference. I've built this one with and without magnets, and the one with magnets are much stronger and yeah, in what they feel. And also what I found on the internet and consider quite interesting is a quote from Nikola Tesla, what he has to say about quartz crystals, and I will just read that quote for you, which says, "In a crystal we have clear evidence of the existence of a formative life principle, and though we cannot understand the life of a crystal, it's nonetheless a living being." I found that quote quite interesting, because I actually didn't expect Tesla to be into quartz crystals, or that he would consider that as living beings. And for me personally, I don't know if they're living beings. Maybe in some sense, okay, but yeah, they certainly have special properties. I know most people don't believe in such things, but if you experience it yourself, these special properties that I told you before, you will know that there is something with them what we don't understand yet. So yeah, this is just what I wanted to tell you, that in combination with a strong magnetic field, it does something with the crystal. And I would say something positive, because yeah, it makes them much more energetic and much more powerful. It is like, for these Orgonite builds, it is like adding an actual battery to them to make them much more powerful. And I can tell that by when people come to my home and see these builds, almost all of them immediately, and they are not familiar with Orgonite or anything closely related to crystals or something like that, they always come here and yeah, that's beautiful, and immediately they all touch them. They always go like this. And that is something I noticed, that intuitively all of them just want to touch them. I don't know why that is, but yeah, it tells me that maybe intuitively they want to come in contact with it, because when you have these bills at your home, it is, of course, when you just have them sitting here in your room, you're still in contact with the field of them. Your body's field and theirs field are in contact, and it has some positive effects for you. But what I would consider mostly important is that you actually work with them. And this doesn't mean that you need to rub them like a magic lamp or something like this. It is enough if you just touch them, let's say consciously, and yeah, let your intuition guide you. It will feel a certain way for you, or if you have some of this, you will know what I mean. Or like this, just hold them in your hand and do nothing. Like a meditation practice. And this is what actually I think is important that you have to do with them. Not just having them sit around, but actually work with them. And by work with them, I mean touch them, hold them. And yeah, another interesting aspect of this magnetic Orgonite is you can take them and rotate them like this, and you will feel like a certain momentum. This is just because of Earth's magnetic field, I would say. You will feel like if it were attached to rubber bands, and it's like the center of gravity shifts from these pieces of Orgonite, which is also kind of interesting. This is of course because they're magnetic by themselves. I can show you this quickly with an EMF meter that I use from my phone. This is just a phone app, and every phone has an EMF meter. Mine has the sensor on the top, and if you just take these pills that have magnets in them, you can see with the graph, of course, the reading gets quite high. It shouldn't be a surprise because they're of course magnetic. Same goes for the bigger pills. Depending on where you go to it, the field is stronger or weaker. Also with these ones, you will detect the magnetic field of them, of course. And yeah, this is basically, I hope I didn't forget something, but this is what I consider important with building Orgonite, that you use magnets in them. Just try it out for yourself. And also the bills that you can see here are up for sale. You will find the link for my shop in the video description if you're interested. And yeah, also just try out. Most of you certainly have some kind of quartz crystals at home, and try this out to bring them close to a strong neodymium magnet, and you will feel certain repulsion force, which is, if you've never felt this, I promise you it will be fascinating at first. So yeah, anyway, I have to let in my cat, so that's it for this video. So thanks for watching and goodbye.